I would be hard pressed to say I can support this team.
If we score, part of you, your heart will be happy, but your head will be reminding your heart of the context surrounding this game, surrounding Team Melli, and surrounding the wider World Cup as a result of FIFA's sort of corruption and collaboration with the Iranian regime and Infantino's lack of morality.
Iran is a part and parcel of our being.
FIFA has now banned the Lion and Sun flag.
It's going to be a festival, it's going to be a sea of Shiro Khorshid flag, and I invite the FIFA stewards to try to control that.
FIFA is just, I would call it a cesspool of corruption that does not allow for fairness. And Infantino is pretty much in bed with the Islamic regime.
Hi there. They always tell us to keep the politics out of it. Out of music, out of comedy, movies, sport, out of football, soccer, where it becomes a last resort. They always tell us to keep the politics out of it. And with the FIFA World Cup beginning next week, we're hearing it again. Just enjoy the football. Just watch the matches. Just leave the politics at the door. We're tired of the grandstanding and don't want it anymore. Well, it's a nice idea, a comforting idea, but it does always strike one as a little strange because politics is not some unwelcome guest standing outside the stadium hoping to sneak in. Politics and football at this level are actually somehow akin. Politics got there long before any of us did, long before the fans arrive, long before the television cameras go live, long before the opening ceremony. Why? Well, the World Cup itself, God love it, is built around nations, flags, anthems, borders, and identities, not to mention dodgy rules, economic elitism, ethical paradoxes, atrocity, whitewashing, and nowhere does this feel more complicated than it does for many Iranians, because Iranians love football. The World Cup is woven into our memories, childhoods, families, moments of collective joy, and a national story that has not always offered many reasons for celebration. But today, many Iranians find themselves caught in a painful contradictory situation. They want to support Iranian athletes. They want to celebrate Iranian excellence, but they do not want to be seen supporting a regime that has imprisoned, tortured, and killed Iranian people. And more than ever, this major tournament brings the same uneasy questions. What exactly are we cheering for? Who exactly is being represented? And what responsibility, if any, belongs to players who wear the jersey of a country whose government many of their supporters reject and intend to overthrow? They always tell us to keep the politics out of it. And then FIFA decides that the Lion and Sun flag, a symbol that represented Iran long before the Islamic Republic ever existed, is somehow too political for the stadium. Think about that for a moment. An organization attempting to remove politics from football finds itself making a political decision about which symbols millions of people may display. A decision that is decidedly political in every way. A decision intended to avoid controversy creates even more controversy. This is one of the great FIFA follies. They tell us to keep politics out of it, but for many people around the world, and for many Iranians in particular, politics was already in it. It was in the flag, it was in the anthem, it was in the questions of identity, freedom, representation that existed long before kickoff. The real folly is pretending otherwise. So, if you need to cozy up to dictators or ban flags or live by your hypocrisies or overcharge or allow a nation who just slaughtered tens of thousands of young people and dissidents to play as if it's all okay, you do your thing. But let's not pretend that this is somehow devoid of the political ring. They always tell us to keep the politics out of it. And that's the word again this year, sure. But get ready for the Iranian people to fly the Lion and Sun flag without fear. It's June 4th, 2026. This is Roqe. Hi there. Welcome to episode 444 of Roqe, Iran Rises. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. Hello to you from Toronto, Canada. Salam Dustan Aziz. Durud bar shoma. Hope you're doing okay wherever you are tuning in from around the world. This is the 40th episode in our Iran Rises series. This one entitled The FIFA Follies. It's a football-related episode, and I have to say I just came back from London after a weekend celebrating my Arsenal. The big parade, 1.5 million people in London, UK, my hometown, the place I was born. It was a remarkable kind of experience. And without any sort of virtue signaling, I want to say that it was a truly international experience. 1.5 million people from all around the world supporting our team in the streets of London. It was really something special. I also got to see some friends, including those in the Iranian community in London, England. It was really nice. Back in Toronto now, and we are recording this show. It's Thursday. Once again, I should say that events inside Iran and around the Iranian diaspora, as usual, are moving at a breakneck speed. So we have to note that we're recording this episode at approximately 3:30 p.m. Eastern time here in Toronto on this Thursday, June 4th. That's around midnight in Iran. So as always, we're sharing perspectives and conversations as up to date as humanly possible, and we'll do our best. Now, just before we get going with this panel, with this episode, if you appreciate our independent programming and or you just want to support us so that we can keep doing what we do, you can do so on YouTube. If you like what we do as alternative independent media, you can go from any of our podcast platforms to YouTube right now, or if you're watching this on YouTube, just hit the super thanks button on YouTube, super thanks, and you can contribute whatever you want to keeping Roqe alive and thriving. We appreciate any amount. Some of you have been doing so, and we are always appreciative of that. Thank you. Coming up on this 444th episode of Roqe, the FIFA World Cup begins in just 1 week here in North America, here in Toronto as well. And once again, we're being told this could be the most political World Cup ever. There are wars, there are protests, there are questions about nationalism, identity, immigration, free speech, and what role politics should play in sport. But then again, don't we say that every 4 years? From Russia to Qatar to now North America, every World Cup seems to arrive carrying controversy, right? Every World Cup seems to spark calls for boycotts, outrage, and predictions that politics will overshadow the game. And yet somehow, when the tournament begins, the goals and the heroes and the heartbreak and the surprises often take over. So what should we expect this time? Will politics dominate the headlines? Will FIFA's contradictions once again be exposed? And what will the tournament mean for Iranians around the world wrestling with Team Melli, the lion and sun flag, the Khorshid, and questions of representation? Will Iranian fans show up to support Team Melli? Probably not. Will the lion and sun flags become flashpoints inside stadiums? Probably. Should FIFA allow symbols that many Iranians see as representing their aspirations for a different future? And is the World Cup ultimately about football or something much bigger? And then when that first whistle blows next week, will any of this matter as much as we think? Joining me for a special football panel are Atbin Arian in the UK and Shayan Sami'i in DC. Let's get to it. All right, let me tell you about Stellar Law. Today's episode of Roqe is brought to you in part by Stellar Law. Stellar Law is a boutique litigation firm based in Toronto, founded and led by Rana Nosrat Pana. The firm represents businesses and professionals in commercial and contractual disputes, particularly where relationships have broken down and the consequences can be very significant. Now, Stellar Law's practice is grounded in careful analysis and strategic decision-making. Much of the work involves contract disputes, shareholder conflicts, complex business disagreements that require both legal precision and practical judgment. Rana and her team are known for approaching these matters with clarity, focus, and a deep understanding of what's at stake for their clients. For those navigating serious disputes with real commercial impact, you need a lawyer, you need a law firm. Check out Stellar Law at stellarlaw.ca. Thanks again to Rana Nosrat and her team at Stellar Law. And if you are Iranian, and you should note that Stellar Law operates both in English and in Persian. So if you prefer to deal in Persian, you can do so with Stellar Law. All right, let me tell you about Quasar Homes. Today's edition of Roqe is brought to you in part by Quasar Homes. Quasar is a name synonymous with quality, detail, and innovation in Toronto's custom home building and major renovations. Founded and led by Amir Firouz, Quasar Homes has become a trusted choice for families who want exceptional craftsmanship and a seamless building experience. With a passion for creating homes that combine elegance and comfort and functionality, Amir and his team continue to raise the standard of living for homeowners across the city, they are particularly committed to environmental awareness and sustainability. So they also happen to be the sponsors of the Roqe Media Icon Award. If you are in the greater Toronto area and you're looking to build, you're looking to renovate, consider Quasar. Check them out at Quasar Homes on Instagram, Quasar Homes. All right, let's get to our panel in the Washington, D.C. area. He is a U.S. national security analyst and a Near East Africa and South Asia expert specializing in strategic communications. He's also a huge football fan. You may have seen him on Persian news outlets such as Iran International. He's also been a regular for us here on Roqe since the beginning of the Lion and Sun Revolution. Shayan Sami'i joins us from Vienna, Virginia. And Atbin Arian is a British, Swedish, Iranian medical scientist by training who spent the longest stint of his career at Goldman Sachs in London and has co-founded a venture capital business. He's a storyteller and writes for The Spectator on Iranian history and culture and Middle Eastern geopolitics. A big football fan, having watched Team Melli, the Iranian national team, at 3 World Cups, Germany, Brazil, and Qatar, and will be attending Iran's games in LA this year for the World Cup. And he's also a Manchester United season ticket holder. He wasn't perfect. I mean, he was good up until that point. He joins us from Bath in the UK. Hello to you both.
Thank you for having us, Jian. Good to be with you.
Hi, Jian. Thank you very much for having us.
Guys, we're talking about the name of the episode is the FIFA Follies, and we are officially 1 week away from the World Cup. And I've made no secret of the fact that on this program, we want to talk about the World Cup throughout the next 2 months, partly because it intersects with the Iranian diaspora in a lot of ways, and it's being held here in North America, Toronto, where we're based. In my experience, it's interesting, a lot of the chatter right now leading up to the game, not just in the Iranian space, but internationally in the media, is about the political components of this World Cup. I was watching a British broadcast yesterday that was saying, is this the most political World Cup ever? And is that going to overshadow the game? For me, it was a flashback to doing a piece on this, doing a panel on this at CBC 15 years ago, talking about the Qatar World Cup and whether that's even going to go ahead because of all the controversies around labor and problems and human rights, et cetera. It's something that we talk about each World Cup. So to begin this off, with all the global tensions, do you think the political atmosphere will overshadow the World Cup, or will the games inevitably reclaim the center stage? Atbin?
I think the latter. I think what we've seen in previous World Cups is that there is always a lot of chatter as during the build-up to each World Cup, particularly with the last World Cup with these sort of labor rights or lack thereof and health and safety issues around the workers who built the stadia in Qatar, as well as various other criticisms pertaining to things like human rights abuses and even Islamic fundamentalism. But I think the moment the first, when we have the first kickoff on the 11th of June between Mexico and South Africa, which is a mirror image of the opener in the World Cup in 2010 in South Africa, I think all of that will go out the window realistically. I think that what we know, the news cycle is very fickle. People forget things very quickly, including and especially amongst football fans.
Shayan, you're in the U.S. and there's no shortage of controversies about President Trump, et cetera, let alone for Iranians and the Iranian situation. Do you think the games will? I'm with Atbin. It usually there's a lot of chatter, and then the games begin, and people get consumed in an amazing goal or an interesting surprise or whatever happens. They're rock star players. You say what?
I'm in agreement with you, gentlemen, because the fact of the matter is that the games overtake all kinds of politics. There's always going to be an underlying political factor. For example, when the FIFA president comes to the United States and gives some kind of an award to President Trump just to be on his good side, that tells you that there is always an undertone of politics in it. But I'm going to show my age here and go back a few years when Ricky Martin sang the song, the opener song for World Cup, and said, "This is the cup of life." That's how World Cup gets treated around the world. No matter how much undertone of political aspirations or machinations you want to have, but when the games start, that becomes life.
Right.
And for that period of 1 month, life revolves around that. Heaven knows, when I was younger and I lived in LA with my brother, we would get up at all kinds of different hours in the day to just watch a glimpse of the game. And mind you, back then, the football was not this popular in the United States. When did football become popular in the United States? When the Women's World Cup came to the United States and the US team won versus China. That was the start of a football revolution. But I honestly believe that politics will have an undertone, but once the game starts, it's all about the game.
I also think for North Americans, Cheyenne, it was when the advent or the spread of cable networks, sports networks, so that we could watch the Bundesliga or Premier League or all the games in La Liga, things that we couldn't get in North America before. When that happened around 20 years ago, 15 years ago, it changed everything, So because it's an equal playing field with Major League Baseball now or whatever. Okay, so let's come back to the World Cup in general, but now talk about being Iranian at this time, which of course is as ever confusing or perhaps more so than ever, both because of the ongoing revolution / war / ceasefire / atrocities, etc., that are going on with respect to the Islamic Republic, but specifically with respect to Team Melli, the Iranian national team, or at least the Islamic Republic of Iran national team, playing at this World Cup. First, I want to ask you both what your sense is of what your own sense of what you're going to support and not support, but also what your sense is of where the Iranian diaspora is at in terms of supporting this team. We did an episode about a month ago or 6 weeks ago saying, who do you cheer for? And I was hard pressed to find anybody who would say that they would support Team Melli. That feels like, to be quite honest, it's changed a little bit. I'm running into people both online and actually even in the community who are saying, all bets are off. The tournament starts. I'm going to be behind the team. Really? These guys? Yes. So first, your feelings about Team Melli, lay them out straight, and where you think the Iranian diaspora is at with Team Melli. Going to support? Not going to support, or not even interested? Shayan.
Truthfully, I I can't support this team because this team was not created based on capabilities. It was created based on adherence or loyalty to the system, to the regime. So this bunch of players, they are selected solely because they are to be the actors and the players for the regime. It is not a representative of the people or all of the talents that the Iranian Football Federation could amass. So I would be hard pressed to say I can support this team because of the super politicization by the regime, by the government, that everything became politics, from whether the players want to sing the national anthem or they don't, or to even go and file a petition with FIFA that people in the stadium should not be bringing the lion and sun flag. So all of that gives me the understanding that this is not a team that is representative of the people of Iran. It is a selection by the Football Federation of the Islamic Republic. So when I create that distinction, then in my mind, because of all the atrocities that the Islamic Republic has committed to the people of Iran, in good conscience, I cannot support them. I go back to the previous World Cup in Qatar, that when the United States was playing Iran, a lot of people in Iran were rooting for the US. And when the games were played here, and I was watching in a major arena with a lot of other people, when the US scored a goal, the whole entire audience went in cheers, and the Americans were looking at us like, hey, wait a minute, you guys are Iranians. What's going on? And when we told them what the atrocities were, they became sad. They weren't joyful for their country. They became sad for how it affected us.
And even more poignantly, 4 years ago, when the Team Melli did score and even won a game, I think, there were no celebrations, even
No.
inside Iran. You'd be hard pressed to find videos of celebrations, which spoke volumes. Because the one time, at least under the Islamic Republic, other than Nowruz, you do see people traditionally celebrating in the streets would be around Team Melli. So that said a lot. Shayan, is it your sense that most people in the diaspora have your position, that just will not support this team?
Uh, I believe so, yes, because a few years back, about 20 some odd years back, when Gugush first came out of Iran and came to Canada and then the United States, Los Angeles Times wrote an article and said there are two things dear to Iranians' heart. One is Gugush and two is football. This regime has done something that has taken away that love for football from the people and that love for the game and for the competition. Remember when I think it was in 1972 when Team Melli first went to the World Cup and Hishmat Mohajerani was their manager. The entire country was rooting for them, albeit everybody knew that they may not advance that far. Even in years past, the level of support for Team Melli was up. But when the atrocities of the government rose and the players stayed quiet solely because they needed to keep their job or their position or their jockeying for their advancement in other areas, especially economic well-beings domestically, that created a wedge and it has become an ocean.
Right. Okay. I might draw a distinction between Iranians' lack of enthusiasm for Team Melli and lack of enthusiasm for football. I think Iranians still love football. I mean, when I was in London at the Arsenal parade on the weekend, there was a lot of Iranians out there, Arsenal supporters, and there's going to be a lot of Iranians who want to come to World Cup events and be part of things. It's not going to revolve perhaps around the Iranian national team. Ironically, for people who don't know the nuances of that, it's going to be another explainer to non-Iranians. No, we don't. We're not supporting this team. Kind of like, yes, we support intervention, that kind of thing. It can be confusing to the non-Iranian. Atbin, let me come to you. I'm going to get to the Lion and Sun flag and the nature of protest and your article in the Spectator. But first, just talk to me about your feelings about Team Melli this time, as a guy who's followed this team, has gone to World Cups, who's cheered for them in the past, and what you're seeing and hearing from the diaspora as well.
Well, I think, Jian, my feeling is probably shared by the vast majority of Iranians who have their hearts in the right place and want the liberation and freedom of the Iranian people, which is one of conflict. I think we are conflicted by the fact that we as a nation love football and we have always usually supported our team. But then when it comes to something like this, we saw it in 2022 when following the tragic murder of Masa Amini in September of that year, and then 2 months later you had the World Cup. There were protests at the stadium. There was an outcry. In the first game we saw the players didn't sing the national anthem. And I think we'll have something like that, but tenfold. It'll be a significantly stronger a sentiment now compared to previously. And your heart. Football is about two things. It's celebration. A World Cup is a celebration, a festival of football, and football is about the fans, and football is about moments and emotion. And I think the Iranian people have are going to be deprived of those moments because regardless of what happens, if we score, you know, part of you, your heart will be happy, but your head will be reminding your heart of the context surrounding this game, surrounding Team Melli, and surrounding the wider World Cup as a result of FIFA's sort of corruption and collaboration with the Iranian regime and Infantino's lack of morality. I think it's one of conflict in the sense that we are torn as fans about what, I believe, and I say this through, this is painful for me to admit, but I would have wanted Iran not to be at this World Cup. But of course, the Islamic Republic, which ironically previously has always tried to sabotage the Team Melli's efforts. When Carlos Queiroz joined us as head coach or manager in 2011, we didn't have proper pitches or facilities in Iran for the team to train on. And he brought all of that in. The players didn't have proper kit. They would have to wash their kit themselves, and they didn't have replacement. They would have to use the same shirts. So I think the Team Melli has been weaponized by the Iranian regime previously, try to sabotage its efforts in order to prevent the joy and the celebration of the Iranian people, even in 2014 when Iran lost to Argentina with the last 91st minute, a Messi screamer from outside the box. People were out in the street celebrating because the performance was one to be proud of.
But Atbin, if the team has been weaponized,
yes,
and surely you've heard this argument, and I want to know what your response is. If anybody's watching right now and says, look, I'm with you, I hate the regime, etc., but by not supporting the team, aren't you blaming the players who in many cases may have no choice? All they want to do is play football. I mean, you've heard this, So
exactly.
what you say what to that?
Well, I think it's a very important question and a very important point. And this is the thing. We must not forget that the players are human. The players have family in Iran. And we must not forget that the Iranian regime, the Islamic Republic, are capable of the very worst and the most heinous of crimes. Who knows how many of these players have been coerced? Who knows which of these players' families have been threatened? We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but we cannot rule anything out. We know that there are players who are on the side of the Iranian regime. Mehdi Torabi, for example, has for many years been a vocal supporter of the Islamic Republic. Mehdi Taremi, who is one of the greatest players in Iranian history and the second highest scorer after Ali Daei, has been a vocal supporter of the Iranian regime, and there have even been videos of him, in those sort of, I don't know what they call, the Ashura, those dances and chest beatings that they do. There's videos of that, and there's a very, very, if you weren't Iranian, there's a very, I say beautiful in the sense of an ugly sense or a paradoxical sense of the word beautiful, where there is this contrast between the two of Iran's greatest ever players and the, Mehdi Taremi and Sardar Azmoun, who are the second and the third highest scorers respectively. Mehdi Taremi is in the team. Sardar Azmoun, Turkmen Iranian, who is one of my favorite Iranian players ever, has been a vocal supporter of the Iranian people and spoken up against the Islamic Republic, and as a result is not in this team when he should be. So there's this really beautiful yin-yang kind of contrast between these two players.
So, I mean, you make a great case for why we should remain sensitive and even compassionate to the plight of some of these players, at least. But it still doesn't answer the question. Then, then why don't you just go ahead and support the team? I mean, if it's about the players on the pitch, why aren't you then projecting your own politics onto it?
Look, I'm personally very torn. Look, I don't know what's going to happen when I'm at that game. Of course, the environment is going to bring me into that game, and I'm going to inevitably feel the emotions and the ebb and the flow of that game. If Iran has chances, my autonomic nervous system is going to react. But my heart will also, my head will also be involved there and dampen whatever emotions, whether they're positive or negative. Whether Iran loses, I won't feel as bad as I've done before when I was crying in the stadium in 2014 when Messi scored that last minute equalizer, winner, sorry. And if Iran win, it's not going to be as sweet a victory. At the end of the day, like I said, football is a celebration. It's a sport of passion, of emotion, of joy. And we Iranians right now we are in a state of mourning and we are at war. So how can we possibly celebrate something as insignificant as football in the grand scheme of things when we have lost tens of thousands, 40,000 of our people in the space of 8 hours across 2 evenings just a few months ago, earlier this year? That's what we have to think about. But look, that doesn't mean that any Iranian should feel shame or embarrassment or to enjoy the match.
Okay.
Football is football.
Let me just ask the same question to Shayan. Shayan, I mean, there is a spectrum. I mean, there are people. My friend Mertad Ahmadpour, who's a keen football analyst for many years, and he's in LA. We're going to have him on in the next couple of weeks. I mean, he's to the point where he says, I won't even watch the Team Melli games. I'm disgusted by what this team represents. I'm not even going to watch it. So there's that. But there are people who make the argument that, look, as we were just talking about, these players, you're blaming the players. The players are out on the pitch. Once the game starts, why don't you support them? So what is your response to somebody who says that, Shayan?
I'm with Atbin John on this, because your head tells you something, but your heart says something else. It's quite apt that I use this opportunity, because today we all heard that a wonderful author of Iranian background, Marjan Satrapi, left this world, and we're all mourning her loss. But one of the most famous things that she said, they asked her about Iran and France. She said, Iran is like your mother, and France is like your spouse. Spouse, if it doesn't work out, you can get another. But mom, you only get one. It's the same thing for us. Iran is a part and parcel of our being. So we all have that affinity for the team that is from that country. But at the same time, I'm with Atbin. I cannot let go of the memory that we lost 40, 50,000 people in the span of 2 days, and nobody has been held accountable. Nobody has been held responsible, and the world community is just actually looking the other way and trying to come up with some kind of a deal for this. So I respect the players' dilemma. But at the same time, because of what compound it has come out of, I can't have that same level of affinity and adoration for a team. I'll use another example. There was a game in England, and the Prince of Wales was watching, and he was recording it. And reportedly, his wife called him. He rejected the call from his wife to continue the recording. I say this because I want to say how much football means, even if you're at the highest levels of politics, but at the same time, how much adoration you have for your country and your players.
Okay.
But that has been stolen from us.
Okay. Deftly walked the line there, Shayan. You've said a lot and so little. You're good at this. I mean, you seem to be saying, I feel for the players, but at the same time, I can't support the team. But we should also be compassionate about the players, which is fair. There is an argument to be made that ultimately the player could refuse to play, and some have, and have paid the price. And whether it's fair to expect others to do that or not. But there is, given that we've seen examples of that, there's perhaps a limit to how far the coercion by the regime can go as well. Atbin, this is also it's a huge opportunity. It's the world stage. It's the biggest sporting event in the world, and given that Iranians around the world want to bring attention to the plight of the Iranian people at the hands of the Islamic Republic regime over the last 47 years. One of the ways in which people have intended to do this is to bring the Lion and Sun flag, which represents not the Islamic Republic, to these games. As Shayan mentioned earlier, FIFA has now banned the Lion and Sun flag. which we can talk about separately. But you've written a piece in the Spectator recently saying that you intend to attend one of these games in LA with the Iranian team playing and bring the Lion and Sun flag. Tell me about that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this continues on from a tradition that I've had at every World Cup that I've been to. And I've had incidents as a result, direct result of bringing the flag to these games, both in Brazil and in Qatar. Incidents, significant incidents with stewards, and even being approached by armed soldiers in Brazil, and physically assaulted, received death threats in Qatar, and by both stewards and Iranian regime supporters and sycophants. But so because of that previous experience and knowledge, and knowing how corrupt FIFA and Gianni Infantino is, and their sort of obsequiousness to vie for power as he tries to be pally with political leaders all over the world, I wasn't surprised that this was going to happen, and was actually expecting this announcement. So it's not a surprise. But we all know, we're all Iranian. We've all been in relationships with Iranians. We know if you tell an Iranian not to do something, we all know what's going to happen. Are they going to listen, or are they going to do it, are they going to be twice as determined to do it? So this, I'm quite pleased that it's become such a big announcement by FIFA, and the reaction to it across various social media profiles and influencers, and broadcasters that have, because it's just giving a greater spotlight to the situation. So telling Iranians not to do this, particularly when it comes to our national symbol, a 3,000-year-old symbol of Iran that is older than our country. And remember, our country is the single oldest continuously existing nation state of 2,500 years, and Shiro Khorshid, the Lion and Sun, is at least 3,000 years old, possibly more. So telling us not to bring it is like telling us that our mothers are bad at our mother's food is bad, or that we are not allowed to be Iranians. We are going to bring the flag, and I think we're going to do it in numbers. And what I'm the most excited about is seeing the response of Iranians. I was chuffed, absolutely pleased when the draw happened in December, and I saw that the Iran games were in LA. I was hoping for it. I think there was a sort of 25% chance that it would happen based on the group stage, and it happened. We have the largest diaspora of Iranians outside Iran is in Southern California, about 700 to 1,000 to 1 million Iranians in Southern California alone. I have several dozen relatives in the US. We're all going to the game together. We're all taking a flag each. Just 5 members of my family, my siblings and my parents, were taking a flag each. We've even ordered these special Iran shirts with the Shiro Khorshid. So it's going to be a festival. It's going to be a sea of Shiro Khorshid flag, and I invite the FIFA stewards to try to control that. Yeah, they will confiscate some. They might send some people away. There will be, even in Qatar, an American lady smuggled in the Shiro Khorshid flag to the stadium, which she gave to me, and then I sort of waved it in the steward's face, which then led to those physical altercations that we had by the regime's forces and the stewards who attacked us. So we're ready for it, and we're going to wave and raise our flag more fervently and higher than ever before.
Well, first of all, damn it, Gan, for you, the persistence and the consistency of bringing the Shiro Khorshid. What was the? I mean, that sounds like some harrowing stuff. We didn't have you on. We had a couple of people on at the time of Qatar on this show. A woman who was doing the same as you, bringing the Lion and Sun flag, and had a physical altercation. What's the worst incident you've been involved in for simply bringing a flag to a FIFA event?
Well, there's been 3 sort of major, I say major incidents. Like at the end of the day, it's quite funny, really, how it turned out. So in Brazil in 2014, before the Iran-Argentina game in Belo Horizonte, I was approached by 2 Brazilian soldiers with assault rifles, with 4 or 5 regime people behind them, and they're easy to spot. Unkempt beards. They don't really look Iranian, and they were standing then, and we had a bit of an altercation, and they were sort of swearing at me and calling me names, and they said, I find this so funny, and I was 21 at the time, so I was a little bit more colorful, shall we say. Um, uh, so I sort of called them شما مفتخور کشور ما رو داغون کردین و از این چیزا, and they said his answer, I'll never forget it because it was so funny. گفت لجن مثل شما پرچم کشور خودتون رو بلد نیستین. So that was funny, and we moved on, and I went to the game. I had to give them the flag because I didn't want to miss this match. So I gave them the flag with assault rifles sort of pointing at me. But it was in Qatar really where it really kicked off after the first Iran game. We were very vocal. We were saying like "Marg bar Khamenei" and all of this, and we were followed by a bunch of regime people after the game who were sort of harassing us, and I sort of answered back, and then they took a step back, and I was really surprised. I said to my uncle, who's from Iran, my uncle is 4 years old. In true Iranian style, my uncle is only 4 years older than me, and I said to him, why were they scared? Why did they step back? And he said something which I also never forget, which just tells you the story of these people. He said, they're not used to people answering back, or they're used to harassing women only. And there was me, I'm 6'2", my brothers who are rugby players, and our other friend who's a boxer. We can all take care of ourselves. And even though we were outnumbered, they sort of stepped back and they didn't do anything more after that. But then it really kicked off at the Iran-USA game. And indulge me for a second as I tell this story, which just tells you really the state of things and the level of corruption and how inherent and deep-rooted the tentacles of FIFA and the Iranian regime is. So outside the stadium, they would search people with Woman Life Freedom t-shirts. A friend of mine, Iranian woman from London, she was strip searched because she had a Woman Life Freedom t-shirt on. They were confiscating flags. And in the stadium, my uncle again was sitting next to us, and he had Zan Zendegi Azadi on his t-shirt. And the steward came up to him and said, "Can you close your shirt?" So he was wearing a shirt over that t-shirt, and he closed it. And I was annoyed at this point. I was not happy. And the lady in front of me who was an Iranian from the US, had smuggled in this. I can't believe I'm using the word smuggled, like it's some sort of dangerous contraband.
Right.
But she had smuggled in the Shiro Khorshid flag, and she gave it to me. And I went up to this steward, and there are photos, these athletic New York Post independent articles that came out recently about the ban in this World Cup have the photo of me on the sort of headline of that article, so anybody who Googles it can see. And I'm there sort of waving this flag in front of the steward face. He comes up to me, kind of squares up to me, tries to rip the flag out of my hands, as at the same time as these Iranian regime sycophants who had obviously been paid or financially supported to be there, also kind of jumped up on us, and then my brothers came, and there was a bit of a physical altercation. But I'm happy to say that we kept the flag. We didn't surrender it, and it allowed me to understand the depth of this corruption and this collaboration that exists between FIFA, who are supposed to be the guardians and the stewards of football, and the Iranian regime.
Wow. Oh, thanks for sharing those stories. Shayan, this isn't Qatar. This is North America. Some of these games, the Iran games, are in the States. How aggressive do you think the crackdown will be on people bringing the Shir Khorshid, the Lion and Sun flag? And I had the same reaction that Atbin did when FIFA first codified or formalized the ban. I actually kind of did a little fist bump, because if they hadn't done that, I mean, sure, people would bring the flag. I'm not sure it would become news in America. It would be a good rallying cry for those of us in the Iranian space. But if there is strict kind of security, aggressively so, pulling women down for having a flag, or tearing flags up, or pushing people out of the stadium, or what, this could become an opportunity in terms of attention that we wouldn't want to shy away from. So your thought is what on this?
I agree because number one, one thing that Atbin mentioned, and it's worth bringing it to this context, is that in Qatar, the regime could bring a lot of their minions and cause trouble for the freedom-loving Iranians who had traveled from around the world. In the United States, even some of the people from the Iranian Football Federation did not get a visa to enter the United States. So that imbalance at the onset
Yeah.
is going to create a rather difficulty for the Islamic Republic to enforce some of their rules that they want. However, I agree that FIFA is just, I would call it a cesspool of corruption that does not allow for fairness. And Infantino is pretty much in bed with the Islamic regime and adhering to their likings. Islamic regime is also trying to stay in Infantino's good side. Why? Because of his good relationships with Trump. They are thinking that if we keep this level of relationship, then Infantino can tell Trump to do X, Y, and Z. But Trump has held the line on not giving these thugs visas to come. And one thing, again, that Atwin John mentioned, when you tell an Iranian no to something, man, you have just started a war right there. So I think Iranians are going to be there and the protest is going to be massive. Even they're going to shove flags in their shirts and in their shorts and anywhere else and then take it out, even if it means that they're going to be escorted out. One other thing, this is the United States. And because of the freedom of expression, there is a lawsuit that has been filed against FIFA by the Institute for Voices of Liberty, whose chairman is a dear friend of me and you, Bijan Kian, who has filed a lawsuit against FIFA in federal court in California to stop implementation of this ban. I know that it is progressing, and I know that there's a hearing on it, I believe next week, right before the games are to start. So even if the Islamic Republic tries to uh, manage this issue and tries to influence what people can bring and not bring, the legal ramifications of it in the United States is going to work against them. So they will not succeed. And the people of Iran and Iranians in diaspora, they are going to, one way or the other, express their dissatisfaction, even if it means with some choice words against Khamenei that they have been using.
Okay. Okay. So before I ask you a final question or two about unity and the world, just out of curiosity as football fans, because this is a World Cup that isn't just about Iran, curious to get which nations or players you're most excited to watch in this tournament. Ajmin, I'm guessing you're not only excited to see the Iran games, but as a football fan, who are you looking for?
Well, look, I'm an England fan as well. I'm a Three Lions fan. I watched England at the last World Cup. I of course have a massive affinity to this England team. I'm sad that Harry Maguire is not in the team when I think he should be. And of course, as a Swedish born British Iranian as well. I lived in Sweden until I was 13 before we moved to the UK. So of course I'm happy to see Sweden back in the World Cup for the first time since 2018, and only the second time in I think 4 or 5 World Cups. So yeah, I mean, but at the same time, it's great to be able to watch teams. And this is a larger World Cup. This is the first World Cup that's 48 teams as opposed to 32. So there are teams at the World Cup for the first time, like Uzbekistan, who I've watched a lot on TV because Iran has played them a lot in Asian qualifiers. Cape Verde and Curacao, I think the smallest team ever to play at the World Cup. So it's great to have these teams there, and the beauty of football is that you never know what a result might be. In the last World Cup, we saw Saudi Arabia beat the eventual winners, Argentina. So one of these minor nations is going to come up with is going to be a banana skin for one of the bigger
Yeah.
teams. There will be surprises, there will be shocks, and that's the beauty of football. And that's one of the things I'm looking forward to the most. As well as, there's always players who you've never heard of who score a couple of worldies, and they end up having a great career after that, and that's the beauty of the World Cup.
Yes, and commiserations in advance for England. I'm also a Team England, being a London boy, born there and born and bred in London. I have the reflexive answer to anyone who asks me when the last time my team won the World Cup, which is not in my lifetime, which I fear will be repeating once this amazing England team gets to the semifinals and chokes again. But hopefully this time we'll see. Shayan, who are you most looking forward to in terms of players or nations that you'll be watching for at the World Cup?
On the world stage, I'm a through and through Germany fan, and I love their perseverance in 2014, where the whole world was thinking about Messi and Argentina winning, and then Mario Götze scores that game in the game winner in the double overtime. And I also admire uh, some of the teams that Atbin John mentioned, especially Curacao. I mean, small nation, and a cohesiveness that you really yearn for where you're originally from. But it's not going to happen. But I do also know which team I'm not rooting for, and that's France. Although I love and admire Kylian Mbappe, but I can never root for France. So,
Hmm.
but if Harry Kane and his squad go up through the ladder, it's not going to hurt me one bit, and I'm going to be as jolly as one can be.
I'm old enough to remember 1990. Lothar Matthäus was his name, the Germany team winning that World Cup as well. Um, uh, and you love Kylian Mbappe. That makes you one person in the world who I don't know if I know anybody else who loves him. He's a great player, but even his teammates don't seem to love him on a local level.
Oh, and
Uh,
I forgot. I also love Jamal Musiala.
oh, well, yes, okay.
Should have
If
played for England.
if you were
Should.
if you
There you go. There you go.
but thank God Maguire is not playing. Jesus, that's enough already. But you're welcome to clap back, Osmin. Don't feel like you have to be kind. You can you can respond in kind. There are, I think, a dozen Arsenal players on the team. I think there's a lot of Arsenal players on the
Well, I think
England
a
team.
dozen is probably is probably exaggerating by
Overrated.
by three or four times. But your star boy Bukayo Saka, who had four completed four passes in the Champions League final a few days ago, will be starting on right wing. But yeah, look, these are all great players, and at the end of the
Yes,
day, I put club affiliations aside, and my how should my opinion of Arsenal fans I will put aside, because at the end of the day this is about
true,
England, and I want all the England players to do really well. I
true.
don't care if it's Declan Rice who scores, if it's Saka who scores, if it's Harry Kane who scores. As long as the England team does well, that will be more than enough for me,
I kid.
regardless of where the goals come from.
I agree with you. We put that aside for the World Cup, and I'm a Harry Kane fan for 8 weeks
Oh yeah.
this time as well. Two teams that you think will make the final. A prediction I will hold you to in a couple of months. You first, Otpin.
Well, it also depends on, you have to think about the sides of the draw, right? Because some teams will just inevitably meet one another in in earlier stage before the final. So it's sort of all about what's possible. But I think, you know, look, Spain, France, Argentina, Portugal, England, these are all teams that have the ability and the expectation by their nations to go to the final. I think anything below semi-final or final will be a disappointment. But look, I think I look, I've never been a fan of predictions in football because I know that football, if there's one thing that's great about football and inherent to football, it's unpredictability. But look, I think we could potentially see another repeat of the Euros, the final in the Euros 2 years ago with Spain and England.
You didn't mention in the five teams that you mentioned. I don't think you mentioned Brazil or Germany.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. I mean, I would personally, if England don't win it, I think I would love to see Cristiano Ronaldo as Portugal win it
Hmm.
because I love Ronaldo and I would love him to go out with a bang. And otherwise, I would love to see Brazil win it because there's just a great footballing nation. I would love to see Neymar win it. I think, Brazilians, football to Brazilians is like kubida to Iranians. I mean, it's just, it's their greatest pride and joy. The way they think about football, the way it's almost
And
unfathomable to
when it
us.
doesn't when it doesn't go well, the smell lasts for a long time too.
Well, there you
And
go, there you go.
the
It's like
the
kubida in the
Kubida
car, right?
and the Brazilian football. Shayan, two teams that you think will make it to the final, or you can give us five if
Uh,
now that that's precedent is out there.
you know, if you want me to go with my head, then I would say probably France, Spain, and I will always add England to the mix just because I want Harry Kane to have a World Cup victory as well. But my heart still is thinking about Germany, but I know Germany doesn't have the depth to go all the way up. But France does, Spain does, and I join Atbin. Why not? Let's root for Portugal just for Cristiano Ronaldo to go out with a bang. He most definitely deserves it. He's one of the good guys, and just as Messi got his glory in Qatar, why not root for Cristiano?
All right, all right. I'll bite my tongue on saying anything about Cristiano. Um, Final question to you both. Uh, and let's just talk about football. You both have said things to this extent, and about the possibility of bringing some fleeting unity to the world. It seems like such a paradox, the FIFA World Cup on so many levels. I mean, FIFA itself. We've just talked about the hypocrisy, the corruption of this organization, the political dodginess, the World Cup being. I mean, I barely know anyone who's going to the games, except maybe you, Atbin, because it's ridiculously expensive. It's like it's not an accessible sport at all, and it should be, I believe, football. So there's all kinds of paradoxes that abound. And at the same time, and you will forgive me for mentioning Arsenal again, but when I was in London this past week at the parade, I really mean this. I had um, there was a moment. I mean, there's over 1 million people there. This wasn't like a Man United parade. This was a real proper team. There was a million and a half people there, and it was so international. It was so. Here's a bunch of people of different ages, different occupations, different parts of the world, united, and I couldn't help but feel like, wow, this is. I can't even. I mean, this is the world I want to live in, where people are in a good mood and they're just identifying with each other. Yes, it's based on loving a football team, but there really was a sense of unity. And frankly, 1 million people in the streets and no incidents. I mean, it was in London, it was kind of a.
There were seven stabbings, Gian.
Were there?
There were seven
Oh,
stabbings at
oh!
that
I didn't know.
parade.
I didn't know that. I didn't know there was that. Well, I'm not surprised, but there wasn't any. I mean, there weren't any riots there, and there certainly wasn't anything horrible that I saw. But okay, seven stabbings. I'll take that in a crowd of 1.5 million, according to the police. So there's something to do with beyond the romance and the virtue signaling. There is something about football that can bring that kind of unity. So as we approach this World Cup and all of those contradictions, do you think there's a sense of unity that a troubled world can gain something from over the next couple of months? Cheyenne, and then last word to you, Atbin John.
Um, I hope so, but I don't see it. And the reason I say that is because of all the injustice that's going on and all the hurt that us Iranians are having, and quite a few other nations are having, and the mere fact that the level of corruption within FIFA is seeping out and people are hearing more about it, that causes a heartache. I understand football brings people together. Football does wonders. And I want to be optimistic about it. And I know when the game starts, everybody's just going to be tuning in and just tuning the whole world out. But at least I know for us Iranians, that's going to be rather difficult because we're always hearing all those people who were chanting on Tehran and other cities' streets asking for freedom and got murdered.
All right. Atbin.
Yeah, very well said, Mr. Sami'i. I couldn't agree more. I mean, your question, Jian, was on the unity that football can bring, and on one hand, we've seen the unity that it brings, as for example, in the 2018 World Cup, we saw Gianni Infantino sit in between Vladimir Putin and Mohammed bin Salman at the opening game between Saudi Arabia and Russia. We've also seen the union of marriage between the Islamic Republic and Gianni Infantino. So yeah, there certainly there are certainly dark alliances and unity of evil and corruption there. But on the plus side, and this is going back to the ancient Zoroastrian teaching, light will always overcome darkness, and at these World Cups we have seen, and I have personally experienced, having been at 3 World Cups, the unity amongst nations. In 2006, when Iran played Mexico, Iranians and Mexicans were drinking tequila and beer together in Nuremberg, and in the first World Cup game in Brazil, in the city of Curitiba, Iranian fans and Nigerians were taking photos together and swapping shirts, and Argentina fans in the second game as well. And one of my favorite ever World Cup memories, other than seeing the fear in the regime people's faces when you stood up to them, is the flight from Sao Paulo to I believe Curitiba or Belo Horizonte in Brazil for one of Iran's games, when a significant portion of the plane was Iranian fans who were singing and dancing, and at the luggage carousel waiting for your luggage, people with a tombak singing and dancing. That for me, that's what the World Cup is about. That unity, that joy. We Iranians, we have, one of for me, the greatest pain of the last 47 years, the damage that the Islamic Republic has caused has been separation of grandparent and grandchild, separation of us who were born outside Iran from our from our land, and separation of truth and fact that are presented as truth. And what the World Cups do is that they bring Iranians from all over the world together. They bring my family together. They bring Iranians from all corners of the world. I've met Iranians from Australia, from all over Europe, from Canada and the US. And even in the Charshambeh Suri protests outside the Iranian embassy, the Islamic Republic embassy in London this year, I met an Iranian from Botswana who told me that there is a community of Iranians in Botswana, which I would never have thought about. So yes, the World Cup brings people together, people from the same culture, people from different cultures, people with different skin colors and different beliefs. I've made friends from Saudi Arabia, from Brazil. I've got Iranian friends from all over the world that I'm still in touch with, and I'm going to have a reunion with at this World Cup that I've met at previous World Cups. And that for me is, the World Cup is not about the 90 minutes at the football game for me. It is the festival that surrounds each game. It is the fan zones. It's the flight there. It's the hours before the game. and the sort of roller coaster of emotions that you experience alongside your nearest and dearest, as well as strangers who sit next to you that you'll hug when Iran scores or doesn't score. That's what the World Cup is about.
Wow, that was incredibly well said. Well done. That was really, really beautiful. And if you think back the 4 years ago to that World Cup in Qatar that you were lucky enough to be at, Atbin, the ending of it, the messy, the sort of romantic, the guy who wins at the end, who's been around for a long time, that most of the world is cheering for at that point, really did capture the world's attention in a way that almost nothing can. We don't have appointment television anymore. We're in a world where we're all just walking around looking at our phones, and that was a moment. Everybody was watching, and it was a storyline that could have been written, as they say in Hollywood or something. So there's moments like that you feel the resonance of international unity as everybody watches the same thing at the same time. I hope both of you will be open to coming back in the next couple of months to revisit these conversations. It's been such a pleasure to have you both on. Thank you for your insights and your passion, and go England and Germany, Shayan. Thanks very much, guys. Merci.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be on.
Khudafiz.
Bye-bye.
Come on then, England! Come on then, England! World Cup's beginning. I'm getting my chants ready for the England team. Thank you to Atbin and Shayan. I really enjoyed that, and I know many of you watching have opinions about football, and you may disagree with us about the Final Four, or who's going to the final. Me spending as much time as I have talking about Arsenal, any of those things, you are welcome to email us about that at info@roqemedia.com, info@roqemedia.com. We will continue to talk about the World Cup over the next few weeks, and particularly what it means to Iranians in the Iranian space and around the situation with Team Melli, etc. We will probably be focusing on that as well. In the meantime, this is full time for Roqe for today. Thank you. Thank you to the amazing core team who put this show together twice a week. Super Parisa Sanjarani, Tina, the photo and video queen, Tina Farahi, and Savvy Roham Maher. Special thanks as well to Smart Pega, Charming Kimia, the CK, Trusted and Talented Anahita, Methodical Kaveh, and thanks to the TRK, the Rising Keon, for your help. Thank you to all of you out there for supporting us, for sharing our content. Please subscribe. If you're not already a subscriber, it's easy to do. You just press the subscribe button on any or all of our platforms. It is free. You will be notified about our upcoming episodes and events. You can find the show on Instagram at Roqe Media. You can find me on Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi. And as ever, in the immortal words of the late Uncle Behrang, Mizun Bashi.